Welcome guys, Coach Ed Haynes here talking through the strength and conditioning program for the Performance Group. A very slightly different format here rather than going through our general introductions of the Performance Group, who it's for, what we're doing and why we're doing it. I'm going to keep that to a separate video, which will be a mainstay that you guys can refer back to at any time. This video is specifically talking about our current training stimulus and what we're getting after in our next training block. So just to contextualize where we're at in the season, we've just finished an 8-week training cycle, and that you can refer back to my last YouTube video on that. We're now moving into a new accumulation training block. Now, when we've referred to accumulation and intensification, a really simple way of looking at it is generally in accumulation work, we're looking to do less sport-specific training, perhaps more foundational work. So that might mean higher volumes at lower intensities, more isolated work, more bodybuilding style work, less neurally demanding or taxing training. Reason being, it's really important that we wave between those accumulation intensification cycles, so we're not just beating down the system. It really also gives us a chance to get some fresh new stimulus in to trigger some new adaptation. And kind of from a strength standpoint, it is really important that we're not just doing heavier work all the time. We know that scientific principles of training and linear progressions means that if we can address higher volume, hypertrophy or strength endurance training, increase some muscle size and muscle volume, when we get back into some strength training, it's going to allow us to actually be stronger, faster, more powerful. Okay, so just getting through your training cycle now, just the first thing to mention is that we have developed and evolved your movement prep work for each day. So expect to see some new exercises in there. There's YouTube links for everything. So if you do have the chance to get into class 5 to 10 minutes before, rather than just doing self-guided work, or if you're unsure about what to do, just open up What Up, click on the available links and just follow that through like a playlist. Shouldn't take you any longer than 5 to 10 minutes, but it will do a lot of good for your longevity as an athlete and prolonging your retirement age, but also injury prevention, allowing you to get more out of your training session. All right, so breaking down your week now, guys. You will have noticed that your Olympic lifting, your clean jerk and snatch has been done predominantly in a fatigue-based setting. So you've been doing a lot of kind of like high threshold or high in relative intensity cyclical pieces going straight into cycling or moving a light to moderate barbell. That was really important that we got touches of that because that's very relevant to the sport of CrossFit. But now, having done that, we're going to go back to the drawing board a little bit and really isolate those movements and drive up the clean and jerk absolute strength again. So we'll be expecting to not do those in fatigue-based settings so much, perhaps putting the fatigue-based work into some testers here and there. We'll be doing a lot of single leg strength work again. We haven't addressed that too much over the last few weeks. So expect to be doing things like lunging, step ups and single leg variations on your Monday sessions. And then we'll be doing some mixed modal aerobic work on a Monday with an emphasis on lower body strength endurance. Now Tuesdays, the Performance Group. We've been focusing on really isolating the muscle up over the last few weeks, and we've seen a lot of success for those people training both in-house and overseas with those progressions. With that said, we've noticed that for a lot of the people doing the muscle up progressions, what's holding you back from doing one or adding a second and a third rep to your toolbox is this, that we need to probably get a little bit stronger. So we're actually going to step away from the muscle up for the next 4 weeks and actually just get a little bit stronger in both our pull and dip positions, or movement patterns I should say. Hopefully when we get back into a specific targeted isolated muscle up phase, we'll actually be able to express that strength a little bit more, which should equate to us getting higher up in the rings and deeper into those dips and being more strong or stronger getting out of those positions. So that's the idea. With that said, I'd highly recommend for any of you that were making or seeing progressions with your muscle up drills on the last block, to perhaps get some touches of that in your week, either in your warm-ups or after your sessions, so that whilst we're getting you stronger through some structured strength training on a Tuesday, you're still developing and working on the skill of the muscle up. It's really important to remember that we can create adaptations on a skill or a movement, as well as creating adaptations on a strength quality. So both of those things have to come up. So highly recommend, even though you might not see it in the program, try to spend 5 to 10 minutes a week minimum, just going through those muscle up progressions and making sure your beat swing, your turnover, and using accessory drills for that are staying nice and sharp. So when you put it all together next phase, it should equate to some more success with your muscle ups. Just wanted to add on that we will be unloading your overhead movements a little bit on a Tuesday. Had a lot of feedback in the last block that people's shoulders are feeling a little beat up by the end of it, and that's almost deliberate, in a sense that we are, as we go deeper into an overreaching phase, we are deliberately triggering more inflammation in a hope that it's going to relate back to adaptation. So we're actually just going to keep those Tuesdays a little bit more subdued on the shoulder in terms of how many kipping contractions we're putting in, how many overhead pressing contractions we're putting in, just to make sure that we're fresh for our snatch day on a Wednesday. We'll be continuing to get touches on your chest to bars on that Tuesday. So if you are efficient with your chest to bars and you feel like that's no longer a priority or not as much of a priority, we will give people the option to do muscle ups. But as I said, if you are working on your first muscle up, then in those fatigue-based pieces, I want you guys working on your pull-ups and chest to bars. On your Wednesday, we're going to continue back to isolating the snatch by itself, and then we'll kind of follow that straight up, or we'll be moving into some touch and go work with the snatch. Again, so we're getting touches on the snatch in an isolated setting, but also in a sport-specific setting, because that cycling a barbell at light to moderate loads or even heavier loads is a skill in itself. From there, on a Wednesday, we're actually going to be doing our deadlifting on a Wednesday again. We're going to be varying up our stance and our grip here to kind of build some foundations or readdress some foundations in the hinge pattern. We'll also be doing some kipping handstand push-ups on a Wednesday. So you're probably used to seeing your handstand push-up work on a Tuesday, but again, the reason being to unload the overhead position on a Tuesday, we put it in on a Wednesday instead. We'll be finishing those Wednesday sessions with some threshold work, so some really higher intensity work that's kind of semi-repeatable, but just staying below that red line. Thursday, of course, is your rest day or your catch-up day. Now on Fridays, we're going to be doing some front squat absolute strength work. The closer we get into the season as a CrossFitter, we actually want to start focusing a little bit more on the squatting patterns that are tested more in the sport, which tend to be the front squat and the overhead squat, and doing a little bit less in terms of back squatting. So expect to see more of those two variations and just maintenance touches on your back squat. We'll be doing some kipping pull-up or chest to bar or toes to bar work on a Friday, and we'll be doing a sport-specific tester. So when we talk about sport-specific tester, it's kind of like an AMRAP at somewhere close to your maximal in terms of relative intensity. It might be rounds for time, but this is a good chance to actually kind of get after some short to medium duration work and kind of race against yourself and others. So just bear that in mind on your Friday. It's meant to be hard. And on your Saturdays, we're going to stay with the theme that we've been working on, which is just doing some kind of threshold or aerobic type training. That could be anywhere between long sustainable pieces of 30 to 40 minutes. It might be broken up into smaller pieces like you saw last week. It might be partner workouts, team workouts. We're going to keep those Saturday sessions nice and varied and fun, and just kind of use as a way to close out what movements or what energy systems we haven't had touches on in the week. One last thing, guys, is we are going to be starting a weekly YouTube video, which is going to be based upon the questions that come in from you guys as our clientele or the listeners. It also might just be general coaches discussion where we talk about a certain subject or topic. I guess we can kind of think of this as a podcast, or maybe the early days of a podcast. We'd love, to our performance crew, we'd love to send out a message to encourage you guys to get your questions into us. It can be anything that's training, nutrition, recovery, stress, mindset, mindfulness, mental health related. We have a really good team here who will be able to input some quality information onto that stuff. So get those questions in, guys, either to myself, the coaching team, or our ops team, and we'd love to talk about it. Thank you very much, team, for listening, and keep up the great work.